You're probably stuck pasting your documents into ChatGPT 5 pages at a time.
Hitting context limits, and burning through credits just to summarize a single report. Trust me, I made that exact mistake for months. But then XAI dropped Grok 4.3, a model with a 1 million token context window, at roughly 1/5 the price of GPT-4o. And I found something surprising. The cheapest model on the market is actually beating the big names on the tasks people pay the most for. Welcome back to bitbiased.ai, where we do the research so you don't have to. Join our community of AI enthusiasts with our free weekly newsletter. Click the link in the description below to subscribe. You will get the key AI news, tools, and learning resources to stay ahead. So in this video, I'll break down what Grok 4.3 can actually do, where it crushes the competition, where it falls flat on its face, and I'll walk you through every built-in tool so you can start building with it today. First up, the headline specs. Because once you see the pricing, you'll understand why developers are quietly switching over. The headline specs. Let's get the highlights out of the way first. Because Grok 4.3's spec sheet reads like XAI is trying to start a price war, and honestly, they kind of are. Grok 4.3 is XAI's latest flagship reasoning model, and it's built around three big ideas: a massive context window, configurable reasoning depth, and native tooling. The context window alone is the headline. We're talking 1 million tokens. That's roughly enough to fit a small stack of novels into a single API call. For perspective, GPT-4o tops out at 128,000 tokens. Claude 3.5 Sonnet tops out at 200,000. Grok isn't playing the same game. Now here's where it gets interesting, the pricing. Grok 4.3 charges $1.25 per million input tokens, and $2.50 per million output tokens. Compare that to GPT-4o at $2.50 input and $10 output, or Claude 3.5 Sonnet at $3 in and $15 out. You start to see the strategy. Cached prompts drop even lower, to about 20 cents per million. If you're running anything at scale, that math compounds fast. But specs are just specs. What actually makes Grok 4.3 different is what happens between your prompt and the response. And that's what we're getting into next.
Detailed feature breakdown.
All right, let's open the hood. Grok 4.3 ships with a feature stack that reads like a wish list for anyone who's ever fought with a language model in production. It's multimodal on the input side, meaning it accepts both text and images and returns text. Not full image generation on the output, but enough for vision and language tasks. Reading screenshots, parsing charts, handling PDFs with embedded diagrams. Then there's that 1 million token context window. And it really does change what's possible. You can drop an entire code base, a full legal casebook, or a year of financial filings into one prompt. No chunking, no vector database, no retrieval pipeline. End-to-end in a single call. Here's the part that genuinely surprised me. Grok 4.3 has configurable reasoning with 4 effort levels: none, low, medium, and high. Most models give you chain of thought, or they don't. Grok lets you dial it. Need a fast, snappy answer? Set effort to none. Wrestling with a math proof or a contract clause? Crank it to high and let it think. And here's the kicker. Unlike older Grok versions where reasoning was opt-in, Grok 4.3 keeps a reasoning chain active by default, even when you don't see it. XAI claims this is what drives its industry-leading low hallucination rates. On the tooling side, function calling is native. You describe your tools, and Grok decides when to invoke them. But it also ships with built-in tools out of the box. Real-time web search, Xsearch, formerly Twitter, code execution, document collections for retrieval, and remote server support for plugging in your own infrastructure. Rounded out with structured output for things like tables and data formats. Streaming so you can show tokens as they generate, and a December 2025 knowledge cutoff. And you've got a model that's clearly built for agents, not just chatbots. But here's the question. Does the architecture actually deliver on all this? Let's look under the hood.
Architecture and technical highlights.
Now this is the part I think most people are sleeping on, because it's a real shift in how these models are designed. Most language models treat reasoning like a special mode you switch into. Grok 4.3 treats reasoning as the default state. The architecture is built so that internal deliberation runs constantly. The model is essentially thinking before it responds on every single query, whether you asked it to or not. XAI's whole pitch is that this is what reduces hallucinations. By integrating reasoning steps into the inference loop instead of bolting them on, the model is fact-checking itself in real time. Handling 1 million tokens of context isn't trivial either. While XAI hasn't published the exact mechanism, it's almost certainly using some combination of segmented attention and streaming context management to keep memory costs manageable. They also offer server-side prompt caching at 20 cents per million tokens, which is huge if you're sending the same system prompt over and over, and most production apps do. The agentic side is where the architecture really flexes. Function calls are first-class citizens, meaning the model is trained to invoke tools cleanly with structured schemas, instead of producing the messy, quote, "let me try this function," unquote, text you get from less mature models. And then there's the reasoning effort knob I mentioned. Setting it through the API is genuinely useful for cost control, because high-effort reasoning burns more tokens. So on paper, this is one of the most sophisticated reasoning architectures shipped to date. But how does it actually score against the competition? Wait until you see this. The benchmarks are not what you'd expect.
Performance and benchmarks.
Okay, here's where this help be moving. The benchmarks results tell two completely different stories depending on what you're testing. The good news first. On domain-specific reasoning, Grok 4.3 is genuinely state-of-the-art. The AI evaluation firm Val's AI ran it through Case Law version 2. That's a legal reasoning benchmark, and Grok hit 79.3% accuracy. It also took the #1 spot on CorpFin, a financial reasoning benchmark, jumping 25 points over the previous version. And on a logic puzzle benchmark called GDP Val AA, it hit an ELO rating of roughly 1500, beating OpenAI's Gemini 3.1 Pro and GPT 5.4 Mini. So if your use case lives in law, finance, or formal logic, this thing is a monster. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. On general intelligence benchmarks, Grok 4.3 trails behind the latest GPT and Claude models. VentureBeat's coverage flags some weird regressions too. On an agentic simulation test called Vending Bench 2, Grok 4.3 displayed what testers literally called narcolepsy. It kept asking to stop early, and spent days of internal compute thinking, instead of actually taking actions. And on Proofbench, a coding puzzle suite, it scored just 11%. 11. That's not a typo. So what does this mean for you in practical terms? If you're building an autonomous coding agent or a high-frequency decision bot, Grok 4.3 is probably not your pick. But if you're doing deep document analysis, legal research, financial modeling, or anything where reasoning depth matters more than reaction speed, the price-to-performance ratio is hard to beat. Drop a comment if you're testing this for a specific use case. I'd love to know whether you're seeing the same pattern in your own workloads. Practical use cases and limitations. So given all that, where does Grok 4.3 actually shine? The sweet spot is anything that combines deep reasoning with long context. Lawyers processing entire casebooks, analysts sifting through years of financial filings, researchers reading large bodies of scientific literature, developers generating documentation across a whole code base. The tool integrations also make it ideal for agentic workflows. For example, a financial assistant that uses web search to pull live market data, then reasons over a 100-page earnings report you've also handed it, all in one call. But let's be honest about the limits. Grok 4.3 is not a jack of all trades. It can underperform on open-ended creative writing. It can stall on low-level code generation. It has a habit of preferring to think rather than act when you're running it as an agent, which is the opposite of what you want in real-time systems. And while it has a December 2025 knowledge cutoff, you have to explicitly invoke web search to get newer info. It won't reach for it on its own. It's also less censored than most competitors. So if you're building consumer-facing apps, plan on adding your own content filters. Translation? Use Grok 4.3 for reasoning-heavy, high-context, cost-sensitive workloads. For broad consumer applications or high-assurance general tasks, GPT-4o or Claude is still the safer pick. Now let's get to the part you actually came for, the tools, and how to start building.
Section 6, the SuperGrok tutorial. All right, this is the hands-on part. I'm logged into SuperGrok right now. That's the $30 per month plan from XAI, and I'm going to walk you through every part of this interface in the exact order you'll use them. Modes first, then the plus menu, connectors, skills, and finally putting it all together with a real prompt. The mode selector. Look at the top right of the prompt bar. You'll see a small drop-down that says Grok 4.3 Beta. Click it. This is the mode selector. And this single drop-down is the most important setting in the entire app, because picking the right mode is the difference between a useful answer and a wasted minute. You've got 5 options here. Let me break them down one by one. First, auto. This is the default. And honestly, for most users, this is the right pick. Auto looks at your prompt, decides if it's a quick question or a hard one, and routes it to either fast or expert behind the scenes. No thinking required. Second, fast. Use this when you want a quick answer with no waiting. Short factual questions. Quick rewrites. Summarizing a single paragraph. Anything where speed matters more than depth. Fast skips the heavy reasoning chain entirely. Third, expert. This is labeled think hard, and that's exactly what it does. It runs deeper reasoning and produces more detailed step-by-step explanations. Use this for analysis, multi-step problem solving, document breakdowns, or anything technical. It takes longer, but the quality jump is real. Fourth, Grok 4.3 beta. This is the new flagship. Note that it says uses skills and connectors. That's the key detail. This mode is the only one that fully taps into your custom skills and your connected apps like Gmail and Drive. So if you've set up integrations, this is where you actually use them. And fifth, Heavy. This is grayed out for me, because Heavy is only available on the $300 SuperGrok Heavy plan. What Heavy does is spin up a team of AI agents that work in parallel. One plans, one researches, one writes, one verifies. It's overkill for most tasks. But for deep research projects, it's in a league of its own. My honest take? Stay on auto by default. Switch to expert when you have a serious task. And switch to Grok 4.3 beta when you're using your connectors or skills. That's the entire mental model. The plus menu. Now look at the left side of the prompt bar. You see that plus icon? That's where all the input magic happens. Click it and a menu pops out with 4 options. Upload a file. That's how you give Grok PDFs, spreadsheets, Word docs, images, or any other file you want it to read. Drag and drop also works. Recent. This shows your recent conversations and lets you pull context from a previous chat into the current one. Hugely useful when you're picking up where you left off. Skills. We'll get to this in a minute. This is one of the most underrated features in the whole app. And finally, Add Connector. This is where you link Grok to your external apps. Gmail, Drive, GitHub, Notion, all of it. Let's talk connectors next. Connectors. Connectors are where Grok stops feeling like a chatbot and starts feeling like an assistant that actually lives inside your workflow. Here's the idea. A connector is a one-time link between your Grok account and another service. Gmail, Google Drive, Outlook, OneDrive, SharePoint, Notion, GitHub, Linear, Slack, HubSpot. Once you authorize it, Grok can read from those apps, and in many cases, it can write back too. Draft emails, create calendar events, edit documents, open pull requests. Setting one up takes about 30 seconds. Click the plus icon, hit Add Connector, pick the service you want, say Gmail, sign in with your account. Grok asks for the specific permissions it needs. You approve. Done. Now you can do things like summarize my unread emails from this week, or find the latest version of my Q2 budget in OneDrive, or review the open pull requests on my main branch. Grok pulls the data in live, reasons over it, and gives you an answer. No copy pasting. No app switching. A quick word of caution. Once you grant write access, Grok can take actions on your behalf. Sending emails, editing files. Be deliberate about which connectors get write permissions versus read-only. And audit your connected services every few months and revoke anything you're not actively using. Treat Grok the way you'd treat a sharp junior employee. Useful, but you still want to verify the work. Skills. Now here's the feature that nobody talks about enough. Skills. A skill is a reusable instruction set that Grok can run on command. Think of it as a saved prompt with superpowers. It can edit files, use your connectors, run code, or perform any repeatable task you've defined. Grok ships with a bunch of built-in skills out of the box. There's one for generating Word documents, one for PowerPoint decks, one for Excel spreadsheets, one for PDFs. So if you ask it to make a quarterly review deck, it already knows how to produce a properly formatted file with headings, tables, and speaker notes. No setup required. But the real power is in creating your own, and the way you make a skill is honestly absurd. You just describe what you want in conversation. For example, tell Grok, save this as a skill called Video Script Formatter that turns my rough notes into a structured YouTube script with a hook, an intro, body sections, and an outro. Grok saves it. And from that point on, you can say, use the Video Script Formatter skill on this transcript, and it just runs. Every time, consistently. If you've ever spent 10 minutes re-explaining the same workflow to an AI in different chats, this changes everything. You teach Grok once. It remembers forever. Putting it all together. Let me show you what this looks like when you stack the features together. Watch this prompt. I'm in Grok 4.3 beta mode because I'm about to use connectors and skills. I click the plus icon, upload a 50-page PDF report. Then I type, Read this report. Pull the latest pricing data from my Google Drive folder called Q2 Pricing. Compare the two, and generate a 5-slide summary deck using the deck builder skill. In one prompt, Grok does 5 things. Reads the PDF, connects to Drive, compares the data, runs the deck builder skill, and spits out a ready-to-share PowerPoint file. That workflow used to be a 30-minute job across 4 different apps. Now it's one prompt and about 90 seconds of waiting. That's the agentic shift. And that's the actual value of paying for SuperGrok. Is it worth it? So is the $30 per month plan worth it? Honest answer. It depends on what you do. If you're using AI casually, the free tier is fine. You'll get capped, but you won't hit the limit doing simple lookups. If you live inside Gmail, Drive, Notion, GitHub, or any of the connected apps, and you're doing real work with documents, SuperGrok at $30 a month genuinely earns its keep. The connectors alone save you hours a week. And if you're running deep research projects that need multiple agents working in parallel, that's when you start looking at the $300 heavy plan. But that's a small audience. For 90% of people, the regular SuperGrok tier hits the sweet spot. So that's Grok 4.3, a model with a genuinely wild context window, aggressive pricing, and a consumer interface that, once you understand the modes and the connectors and the skills, completely changes how you get work done with AI, paired with some real weaknesses on coding and open-ended creative work. If your use case lives in long context reasoning, this might be the best deal in the entire AI market right now. If this video helped you out, hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel. And subscribe for more deep dives on the AI tools actually worth your time. Drop your favorite Grok use case in the comments, and I'll feature the best ones in a follow-up video.